Awakening in the Desert: The Emergence of Feminism in Saudi Arabia. The feminist movement in Saudi Arabia is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, deeply rooted in the nation's unique cultural and historical context. It is a testament to the courage and resilience of Saudi women who have long fought for their rights and equality, often in the face of significant societal and institutional challenges. In a society often defined by patriarchal traditions and conservative interpretations of Islam, the struggle for women's empowerment has been met with both progress and resistance. The journey has been arduous, marked by both small victories and significant setbacks. Saudi Arabia, the birthplace of Islam, has often been portrayed through a narrow lens, its cultural richness and complexities overshadowed by stereotypes. However, the reality is far more nuanced and dynamic. At the heart of this narrative is the often misunderstood reality of Saudi women. They are not merely subjects of their circumstances, but are actively shaping their destinies. Far from being passive bystanders, they are active agents of change, challenging traditional norms and driving the kingdom's social transformation. Through education, activism, and professional achievements, they are redefining their roles in society. The feminist movement in Saudi Arabia is not about rejecting its cultural heritage or adopting Western models of liberation. Instead, it seeks to harmonize the rich traditions of the past with the aspirations of the present and future. It is about striving for a society where women are equal partners in shaping the nation's destiny. This vision includes greater participation in political, economic, and social spheres. This movement is rooted in the belief that Islam, in its true essence, upholds the principles of justice and equality for all. Many activists draw inspiration from Islamic teachings to advocate for women's rights. This essay will explore the evolution of the feminist movement in Saudi Arabia, examining the historical context, key milestones, and the impact of recent reforms. It will delve into the significant legislative changes and social shifts that have occurred in recent years. It will highlight the struggles and triumphs of prominent feminist activists, while analyzing the ongoing challenges and the future outlook for women's rights in the kingdom. The narrative will also consider the broader implications of these changes for the region and the world. Echoes of the past, tracing the roots of gender inequality. To understand the complexities of the feminist movement in Saudi Arabia, one must delve into the historical and cultural factors that have shaped gender roles and relations. For centuries, Saudi society, like many in the region, has been deeply patriarchal, with men accorded a higher social standing and authority over women. This gender hierarchy is rooted in tribal traditions and interpretations of Islamic jurisprudence that emphasize male guardianship and female modesty. Women's lives were largely confined to the domestic sphere, their primary roles revolving around marriage, motherhood, and maintaining the family honor. While Islam granted women certain rights, including inheritance and property ownership, these rights were often subject to customary practices and interpretations that limited their full exercise. The concept of guardianship, or wilaya, became a cornerstone of the Saudi legal system, requiring women to obtain permission from a male guardian father, husband, or even a son for crucial life decisions. This historical context is crucial to understanding the challenges faced by Saudi feminists. Their struggle is not merely about demanding new rights, but about challenging deeply ingrained social norms and legal structures that have for generations defined women's place in society. Seeds of change, early voices, and unsung heroines. Despite the constraints imposed by tradition and societal norms, Saudi women have never been passive recipients of their fate. Throughout history, there have been courageous individuals and groups who dared to challenge the status quo, sowing the seeds for the feminist movement that would gain momentum in the 20th and 21st centuries. In the early 20th century, as Saudi Arabia transitioned from a traditional tribal society to a modern nation-state, women began to find their voices. Educated women, often from elite families, played a pivotal role in advocating for social change. They established charitable organizations, literary salons, and underground schools for girls, challenging the prevailing notion that women's education was unnecessary or even taboo. These early pioneers faced immense opposition from conservative elements within society who viewed their efforts as a threat to traditional values. They endured social ostracism, accusations of impiety, and even threats to their safety. Yet they persevered, laying the groundwork for future generations of Saudi women to demand their rightful place in society. While their stories may not be widely known, these unsung heroines are the true pioneers of the Saudi feminist movement. Their courage and determination paved the way for the more visible activism that would emerge in the latter half of the 20th century. These women were not just fighting for their own rights, but for the rights of future generations. They understood that education was the key to empowerment, and that by educating girls, they were planting the seeds for a more equitable society. These early efforts were often conducted in secret, in private homes or hidden locations, away from the prying eyes of those who would seek to shut them down. Despite the risks, these women continued their work, driven by a vision of a future where women could participate fully in all aspects of society. Their legacy is a testament to the power of resilience and the impact that determined individuals can have on the course of history. Today, Saudi women continue to build on the foundation laid by these early pioneers, pushing for greater rights and opportunities in all areas of life. The journey is far from over, but the progress made so far is a tribute to the bravery and vision of those early voices and unsung heroines. Their stories, though often overlooked, are a crucial part of the narrative of Saudi Arabia's ongoing transformation. Their courage and determination paved the way for the more visible activism that would emerge in the latter half of the 20th century. Section 4: A Kingdom Divided, Tradition, Modernity, and the Struggle for Women's Rights. The latter half of the 20th century witnessed significant social and economic transformation in Saudi Arabia, fueled by oil wealth and rapid modernization. The discovery of oil not only brought immense wealth, but also ushered in an era of unprecedented change, reshaping the landscape of cities and the lives of its people. This period also saw the emergence of a more vocal and organized feminist movement, driven by a growing awareness of women's rights globally and a desire for greater participation in the country's development. Saudi women began to pursue higher education and professional careers, challenging traditional gender roles and seeking to redefine their place in society. However, this period of rapid change also exacerbated existing tensions between conservative and liberal elements within Saudi society. The push for modernization often clashed with deeply rooted cultural and religious values, creating a complex and often contentious social landscape. The feminist movement found itself caught in the crosshairs of this cultural battle, with conservatives viewing their demands as a threat to religious and cultural identity, while liberals championed their cause as essential for progress and modernization. This ideological divide was not just a matter of public debate, but also influenced policies and the everyday lives of Saudi citizens. The 1990s marked a turning point, with the rise of digital technology and the internet providing Saudi women with unprecedented platforms to connect, organize, and voice their demands for change. The digital revolution allowed women to bypass traditional gatekeepers and create their own spaces for dialogue and activism. Online forums and social media platforms became virtual spaces for women to share their experiences, challenge patriarchal norms, and mobilize for collective action. These digital platforms enabled women to build networks of support and solidarity, both within Saudi Arabia and with the global feminist community. This period also saw the emergence of prominent feminist activists who dared to challenge the status quo openly. These women became symbols of resistance and hope, inspiring others to join the movement and advocate for their rights. Women like Wajeha al-Huwaider, Manal al-Sharif, and Loujain al-Hathlul became household names, their activism capturing international attention and putting pressure on the Saudi government to address women's rights concerns. Their courage and determination highlighted the ongoing struggle for gender equality and the need for continued advocacy and reform. Section 5. The walls begin to crumble. Legal reforms and shifting sands. The turn of the 21st century ushered in an era of cautious yet significant reforms in Saudi Arabia, particularly concerning women's rights. Driven by a combination of internal pressure from the growing feminist movement and external scrutiny from international human rights organizations, the Saudi government began implementing changes that chipped away at the legal and social barriers faced by women. One of the most significant milestones was the granting of women the right to drive in 2018. This long-fought victory, spearheaded by courageous women who risked arrest and social backlash, was symbolic of the shifting sands in the kingdom. Other reforms included easing restrictions on women's travel, allowing them to obtain passports and travel abroad without the permission of a male guardian. Women were also granted greater access to education and employment opportunities, with legal barriers to their participation in various professions gradually being dismantled. These reforms, while welcomed by many, were not without their critics. Conservative voices argued that they were too rapid and a threat to Saudi traditions and Islamic values. On the other hand, some within the feminist movement argued that the reforms were insufficient, merely cosmetic changes that did not address the deeply entrenched patriarchal structures of the legal system.